The day my 7-year-old daughter Emma accidentally saved my life started like any other Tuesday in our small town in Connecticut. I was restocking shelves at Morrison's supermarket, where I've worked as a cashier for the past 8 years, when my world began to crumble. My phone buzzed with a notification. Emma had posted her first TikTok video. My heart stopped when I watched it. There, in the background of my daughter's innocent dance routine, through our kitchen window, I could clearly see my husband Caleb passionately kissing a woman with fiery red hair in our backyard. The same woman who had been bringing her Mercedes to his auto repair shop every week for the past 3 months. Ruby Henderson. At least that's what she called herself. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Instead, I felt an eerie calm wash over me as I watched the video again and again. 10 years of marriage, a mortgage, a child, and countless sacrifices, all betrayed in a 15-second clip. The worst part? They were so comfortable, so brazen, doing this right at our home while Emma was inside. They thought I was too stupid, too busy working my double shifts to notice anything. That night, I played the perfect wife. I made Caleb's favorite meatloaf, helped Emma with her homework, and listened to my husband's lies about working late the next day. But something had changed in me. The naive, trusting Avery Mitchell was gone. In her place stood a woman who would uncover the darkest secret her husband was hiding. Over the next few weeks, I began noticing subtle changes. Caleb was being unusually attentive, bringing me coffee in bed, suggesting I take more time for myself. He even recommended I start driving to visit my sister in Boston more often, a 3-hour drive through winding mountain roads. Then came the life insurance policy paperwork I found hidden in his workshop, a policy I supposedly signed, but never did. A policy worth $750,000. The pieces started falling into place when Officer James Parker, a regular customer at my register, mentioned a series of suspicious accidents involving young mothers in neighboring states. Each case had striking similarities: a grieving husband, a recently purchased life insurance policy, and a mysterious red-headed woman who vanished shortly after the funerals. My hands trembled as I scanned Officer Parker's groceries that day, but my voice remained steady as I asked him if he had a moment to discuss something important. In the break room, over cold coffee and stale donuts, I showed him the TikTok video, the forged insurance documents, and shared my growing suspicions. His face grew darker with each detail I revealed. What started as a simple case of infidelity was unraveling into something far more sinister. As I drove home that evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of blood red, I realized I wasn't just fighting to save my marriage anymore. I was fighting to save my life. The next few days became a carefully choreographed dance of deception. While Caleb thought I was clueless, working my regular shifts at Morrison's, Officer Parker and his team were building a case. Every seemingly innocent question from my husband now carried sinister undertones. "How about taking a drive this weekend, honey? The fall colors are beautiful up in the mountains." Each suggestion made my skin crawl. I discovered more about Ruby, or rather, Rachel Blackwood, through Officer Parker's investigation. She had a pattern: small towns, married mechanics or car dealers, lonely men eager for excitement. 3 dead wives in Pennsylvania, Vermont, and Maine. Each death ruled as a tragic accident, each husband devastated, until they mysteriously relocated months later with a red-headed woman by their side. The insurance money disappeared into offshore accounts, and the cycle would begin again in another state. The hardest part wasn't facing Caleb's betrayal. It was maintaining normalcy for Emma. Every morning, I'd pack her lunch, braid her hair, and send her off to school with a smile, all while wondering if it would be our last moment together. At night, I'd lie awake beside the man I once loved, my heart pounding every time he stirred in his sleep. Was he dreaming about our murder plot? Was he having second thoughts? Did any part of him still love me? Or had I just become a dollar sign in his twisted plan? One evening, while preparing dinner, I overheard Caleb on the phone in our garage. Everything's set for next Saturday. Yes, the mountain route. No, she doesn't suspect anything. Emma will be at her grandmother's. My hands shook so badly. I nearly dropped the casserole dish. They were planning it for our wedding anniversary weekend, a detail so cruel it took my breath away. The evidence mounted: mysterious cash withdrawals, a burner phone hidden in his toolbox, and detailed maps of the mountain routes with specific locations marked in red. Officer Parker's team discovered that Ruby Rachel had purchased a car identical to mine from a dealership 2 states away. The plan became clear. They would swap the cars after forcing me off the road, leaving no trace of foul play. What broke me wasn't the elaborate murder plot. It was finding Emma's birthday card to Caleb, hidden in his workshop. "You're the best daddy in the world," she'd written in her wobbly handwriting, decorated with hearts and glitter. How could he plan to leave her motherless? The same little girl who made him Father's Day breakfast in bed, who waited up for him every night to kiss her goodnight, who trusted him completely. That's when I realized the man I married was truly gone, replaced by a monster wearing his face. The week before their planned accident, I lived in a surreal nightmare. Every kiss from Caleb felt like poison. Every "I love you," a death threat. But I had become an excellent actress. I enthusiastically planned our anniversary weekend getaway, watching him smile as I suggested taking the scenic mountain route he had already chosen for my demise. What Caleb didn't know was that Officer Parker had assembled a specialized task force. They discovered Ruby Rachel had an accomplice in the police department of every town where a wife had died, someone who helped classify the deaths as accidents. The investigation had to be airtight and completely confidential. One leak could cost me my life. The most chilling discovery came 3 days before the planned trip. While Caleb was at work, I found a small box hidden in our attic. Inside were photos of his previous life. Before me, before Emma. He was younger, standing next to a pretty blonde woman and a toddler. With trembling hands, I showed the photos to Officer Parker. Within hours, we uncovered the truth. Caleb Mitchell wasn't even his real name. His first family had died in a tragic house fire 7 years before I met him. The insurance payout had been substantial. I broke down in the police station's bathroom, violently sick as the full weight of my reality crashed down. The man I had shared my bed with, the father of my child, was a serial killer. Every memory became tainted. Our first date, our wedding day, the night Emma was born. Had he been planning my death even then? Had I just been another mark in his twisted game? The night before our anniversary trip, I tucked Emma into bed for what could have been the last time. "Mommy, why are you crying?" she asked as I held her longer than usual. "Because I love you so much," I whispered, breathing in her sweet, innocent scent. After she fell asleep, I placed a hidden camera in her room, hoping to catch any evidence if something went wrong with tomorrow's operation. That same night, I overheard Caleb and Ruby finalizing their plans on his burner phone. "Once it's done, we'll have to wait at least 6 months before getting married," he said. "Emma will need time to accept her new mommy." Ruby's laugh was like broken glass. "Don't worry, baby. I'm great with kids. Just make sure you hit the right spot on that curve tomorrow. We can't have another Vermont situation." I barely slept, watching Caleb's peaceful face in the darkness. How many times had he laid like this, planning the deaths of other wives? In the morning, I packed our overnight bags with shaking hands, including the wire I would wear and the tracking devices hidden in my jewelry. Everything had to be perfect. One mistake, and I would become another statistic, another tragic accident in the mountain curves of Connecticut. The morning of our anniversary dawned crisp and clear. Perfect weather for a murder. I choked down coffee while Caleb hummed, cheerfully, loading our bags into the car. The wire under my blouse felt like it was burning my skin. Officer Parker's words echoed in my mind. Stay calm, stick to the plan, and remember, we'll be following you the entire time. The first hour of our drive was torture. Caleb held my hand, reminiscing about our wedding day, playing the devoted husband perfectly. Each mile marker we passed felt like a countdown to my planned death. I noticed him checking his phone repeatedly, presumably coordinating with Ruby. According to the police surveillance, she was already positioned ahead, waiting, with the duplicate car. As we approached the mountain curves, my heart nearly stopped when Caleb suggested we pull over at a scenic overlook. Let's take some pictures, honey. The view is breathtaking. The double meaning in his words made me nauseous. Standing at the guardrail, he positioned me for a photo, his hands on my waist feeling more like a predator's grip than a lover's touch. Below us, the ravine dropped hundreds of feet. How many other wives had their last photos taken in similar spots? Back in the car, Caleb's demeanor subtly shifted. His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel as we approached the curve they'd chosen. Through the wire, I could hear the police units confirming their positions. Everything hinged on perfect timing. Too soon or too late, and I'd be dead before they could reach us. The next few moments played out like a horrific dance. Caleb accelerated into the curve, faster than safety allowed. His right hand left the wheel, reaching for something under his seat. In my peripheral vision, I saw Ruby's red hair in a car parked ahead. This was it, the moment they'd planned for months. What happened next shattered the silence like a thunderclap. Police sirens wailed from every direction. Before Caleb could react, our car was surrounded. The look of shock on his face transformed into something inhuman, a mask of pure hatred. "You stupid bitch," he snarled, lunging for me. But Officer Chai, Parker had prepared me for this moment. The taser in my purse sent Caleb convulsing back into his seat. Ruby tried to escape in her vehicle but crashed into a police roadblock. As officers swarmed our car, dragging Caleb out, I finally saw his true face. Not the loving husband and father, but the cold-blooded killer he'd always been. The gun they found under his seat was the same model used in his first wife's house. Fire. Through my tears, I watched them handcuff the man I'd loved for 10 years. "How many?" I whispered. "How many wives before me?" His smile was chilling. "You would have been number 5, he said, almost proudly. "But you ruined everything. You were supposed to be the easy one, just a simple cashier. Too stupid to figure it out." The aftermath of that day unfolded like scenes from a movie I couldn't stop watching. The investigation revealed horrors beyond my darkest imagination. Caleb's laptop contained detailed files on each of his previous wives. Sarah Thompson, age 28, kindergarten teacher, died in a house fire in Oregon. Michelle Roberts, age 31, nurse car accident in Vermont. Jessica Campbell, age 26, librarian, drowning in Maine. And his first wife, the blonde from the photos, Amanda Pierce, who died with their 3-year-old son in what was ruled as a tragic gas leak. The interrogation room footage played on every national news channel. Caleb, still wearing the anniversary shirt I'd ironed that morning, confessing to each murder with a detachment that chilled investigators. Ruby, whose real name was Rachel Blackwood, broke down and revealed their entire operation. She was more than just his accomplice. She was the mastermind who found vulnerable men willing to murder for money. Together, they had orchestrated 13 deaths across 7 states. The evidence they gathered from my case helped reopen all the previous investigations. Insurance fraud investigators discovered a complex web of policies, offshore accounts, and forged documents. The district attorney called it one of the most sophisticated and disturbing murder-for-profit schemes in recent history. But for me, the legal proceedings were just background noise to the deafening silence of my shattered life. The hardest part was telling Emma, How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her father is a monster, that the bedtime stories, the Sunday pancakes, the playground visits, all of it was just a cover for his true nature? The child psychologist advised being honest but gentle. Still, nothing prepared me for her questions. Did Daddy stop loving us? Was it my fault? Will he try to hurt you again? Nights became an endless cycle of holding Emma through her nightmares while battling my own. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, remembering every intimate moment with Caleb in a new, horrifying light. The vacation photos on our walls became crime, scene evidence. Our wedding album, once my treasured possession, now felt like a catalog of lies. Each memory was tainted with the question, was he planning my death even then? The media circus was relentless. Reporters camped outside Morrison's supermarket, hoping to catch the brave supermarket mom who outsmarted a serial killer. My coworkers tried to shield me, but customers would still sneak photos, whisper behind their hands. Some called me a hero. Others blamed me for not seeing the signs sooner. The true horror of it all? I was just like his other wives, chosen for my normalcy, my trusting nature, my simple life that could be easily erased. The preliminary hearing was a surreal experience. Sitting in the courtroom, watching the families of Caleb's previous victims, I saw my own pain reflected in their eyes. Sarah's mother clutched a photo of her daughter. Michelle's sister wept quietly in the back row. Jessica's father stood up and shouted at Caleb, demanding to know why. The answer, when it came, was chillingly simple. It was easy money, Caleb said. And they were all so trusting. Ruby's testimony revealed how they selected their victims. We looked for women with routine lives, steady jobs, no complicated family situations. Avery was perfect. A small-town cashier, devoted mother, predictable schedule. The type of woman whose disappearance would be mourned but not too deeply investigated. Hearing myself described as a target, a mark, made me physically ill. 10. Years of love reduced to a criminal calculation. The trial lasted 6 weeks, each day bringing new revelations that tested my sanity. The prosecution presented evidence of Caleb's methodical planning, receipts for the duplicate car, surveillance, footage of his meetings with Ruby, and the most damning, a video of them laughing about my planned accident in his auto shop. She'll never see it coming, he had said, just like the others. The jury took less than 4 hours to return a guilty verdict, but my revenge wasn't complete with just a conviction. I had spent months preparing for this moment, working with the victims' families' lawyers and insurance fraud investigators. On the day of sentencing, I stood in that courtroom, looking directly into the eyes of the man who had planned to make my daughter an orphan, and delivered my victim impact statement, which was broadcast live across the country. For 10 years, I was Caleb Mitchell's wife, I began, my voice stronger than I felt. I cooked his meals, washed his clothes, bore his child, and loved him completely. While I worked extra shifts to help pay for our daughter's future college fund, he was planning my murder. While I decorated our home with family photos, he was pricing life insurance policies. While I trusted him with my life, he was rehearsing my death. The courtroom fell silent as I revealed every detail of our life together, now reframed through the lens of his deception. I described how he'd insisted on teaching me to drive on mountain roads, preparing me for my own murder. How he'd encouraged me to take longer routes to work, testing which paths would be most isolated. How he'd gradually increased our life insurance, building toward his final payday. But Caleb and Ruby made one crucial mistake, I continued, pulling out my phone. They underestimated a 7-year-old girl with a TikTok account, and they underestimated a small-town cashier's intelligence. Today, I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for Sarah, Michelle, Jessica, Amanda, and little Tyler, the lives you stole because you thought their trust made them weak. I had arranged for the families of his previous victims to be present. One by one, they stood as I named their loved ones, the weight of his crimes visible in the sea of faces behind me. Then came the final blow. I announced the creation of the Trust No More Foundation, funded by the seized assets from Caleb and Ruby's schemes. The foundation would help investigate suspicious spouse deaths and support families of insurance fraud victims. The judge's sentence was unprecedented: life imprisonment without possibility of parole for Caleb, and 30 years for Ruby. But the legal punishment wasn't enough for me. I made sure their story became a cautionary tale. I appeared on national news programs, wrote a book about detecting domestic deception, and worked with insurance companies to create new protocols for investigating spousal death claims. Emma and I moved away from Connecticut, starting fresh in a small town where nobody knew our story. She's 13 now, in therapy but healing. Sometimes I catch her watching old videos of Caleb, trying to see signs of the monster behind her father's smile. Those moments break my heart all over again. Last month, I received a letter from prison. Caleb's handwriting, once so familiar on birthday cards and love notes, now seemed alien. "You really showed everyone how smart you are," he wrote. "I should have known better." I burned the letter without finishing it. He still didn't understand. This was never about proving my intelligence. It was about justice, about protecting other trusting wives from men like him. Today, I still work as a cashier, but now I teach self-defense classes on weekends and volunteer at domestic violence shelters. Every time I share my story, another woman comes forward with suspicions about her own relationship. Some call me paranoid when I tell them to check their life insurance policies, to question sudden changes in their spouse's behavior. I tell them I'd rather be paranoid than dead. The TikTok video that saved my life has been viewed millions of times, used in training sessions for law enforcement and insurance investigators. Emma's innocent dance routine became a symbol of how the smallest actions can unveil the biggest deceptions. We keep it as a reminder. Sometimes the most dangerous monsters wear the masks of loving husbands